today we're going to be looking at some different types of trail shoe. When you're picking out what shoe it is that you want to run in, there's loads of different criteria that you might want to look at. The key thing from my point of view is this is not about recommending to you one shoe in particular. There are a massive variety of different factors that you want to take into consideration when you're picking out whatever the right shoe is for you. So today we're not going to be looking at one shoe in particular. We'll be going through a range and I'll be highlighting some of the features that you might want to look at when you're picking out the right trail shoe for you. So when we're looking at the shoes, we want to look at roughly 5 different sort of factors. And I'll talk you through on this one. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at is the grip. This bit here and the outsole design, which is all of the features you can see sort of around the edge and on the outside of the shoe. Second thing that we're going to be looking at is the cushioning and the area around the midsole. So that's primarily kind of anything under the foot, and specifically sort of this bit here and how like stiff and stuff it is. Another thing we're going to look at is like the upper, which is the bit that actually sort of houses the foot and the sort of security of the fit. We're also going to be looking at the stack height, which is kind of like this bit here, how far off the ground it is, and also the heel to toe drop. And then finally, we're going to be looking at it in terms of the durability of the shoe itself and the intended terrain that it's sort of designed to be utilised on. I'm sponsored by Dynafit, who are a sort of trail running and ski mountaineering brand primarily. One of the reasons why I'm not like reviewing shoes is because I can't. It would be sort of unethical and biased for me to like review shoes, whether it be Dynafit or from a different brand. Hence why in this video I'm going to be like describing it and going through factors and features of shoes that are very different across a sort of range of trail running footwear, and describing how that might best suit you in terms of what you want to use them for and what you're intending to sort of achieve from your trail running. So the first factor that we're going to look at is the outsole and the grip patterning of each shoe. The main features to look at here are the grip itself, and that will include like the lug depth. What that means is literally like the size of each of the little studs on the shoe. When you're trail running, these are specifically designed to give you grip. Primarily, as the terrain gets like wetter and softer, you know, they're going to dig in a little bit like a cleat or a football stud, and they're going to give you a little bit more traction on a wet or slippery surface. Additionally, what we'll look at is the types of rubber used on some of these shoes. Difficult one to like show on camera, but like the stickiness and softness of the rubber itself is going to have a really significant impact, particularly when you start running on things which can present like quite technical terrain. So like wet rock, particularly you get it in like the UK, in sort of Wales, Scotland. You can end up running a lot on like mossy rock as well, which is particularly sort of very slippery. But in addition to that, you've obviously got the standard sort of trail running mix of like sort of soft mud, hard mud, potentially some road surface, and also some slightly more specialist terrains like sand, for example. As you can see from these shoes, and I'll sort of pick them up one by one as I talk about them, like side by side comparison of these two, and I sort of apologise for the mud on one of them, but you can see here that the lug patterning is slightly sort of like narrower spaced on these shoes. The lugs are a little bit closer together, and they're also slightly sort of deeper than on these. The reason for that, like this shoe is specifically designed to be used on quite a wide variety of terrains. It's quite a fast shoe, so it's designed specifically to promote like maximum speed under all circumstances. What that means is we're looking really for like maximum grip. This, on the other hand, is designed as a slightly longer distance shoe, and therefore you're not necessarily going to be running quite as quickly in it all the time. So we can afford to have like slightly less grip. If you're sliding around a little bit, it doesn't matter as much. What it will mean, however, is that over those really long distances, you're putting in less energy expenditure over a long period of time, because you're not having to work as hard to like really push through stuff with these slightly lighter lugs. Similarly, what we've got here is we've got two different types of rubber. This rubber, I don't know if you can hear it as I'm squeaking my hand over it, but that is quite sort of like soft and squeaky rubber. This is a little bit harder. Yeah, you're getting a little bit of noise there. You can hear it's slightly different pitch of the noise. But basically here what you've got is like soft rubber is going to be slightly stickier. What that's going to mean in terms of the durability of the shoe is the durability of the lugs and the grip itself is going to go down slightly with a softer rubber, exactly the same that you get with like wet weather tyres on a racing car. At the same time, with a harder rubber, you're not going to get as much traction on some of these very specialist surfaces like, you know, your wet rock, your moss, etc. So picking it out and giving you that range, you know, you go from sort of maximum grip, which is quite a long lug depth, and quite a sticky rubber. That's going to give you like maximum grip in all circumstances, but it is going to slow you down a little bit. And then you go to sort of the opposite end of the spectrum, which is like a very low lug depth. The most extreme example obviously being like a road running shoe that doesn't have lugs at all, with quite a hard rubber. And that's not going to stick to surfaces at all. It's not going to give you a huge amount of grip when it's slippery, but it is going to give you like maximum speed, like maximum bang for your buck. So the next thing we're going to look at is the cushioning and the midsole stiffness of the shoe. So cushioning here represents sort of this, it's like the stack height basically. And trail shoes compared to road shoes typically have less cushioning. Like road is a hard surface, trail is a bit softer. So typically on a trail shoe, you will see less cushioning. Having said that, even when you put them side to side or side by side, let's see how we get the best shot. That'll probably do. Look at that. Yeah. So you see this one here has got like significantly less cushioning than this one, particularly if we sort of try and put them close together. The reason for that, so this is an ultramarathon shoe. So this shoe's specifically designed really on trails to be sort of appropriate for an elite athlete running up to like 100-mile distance. Probably the other comparison is this one. This shoe has got a similar stack height, so a similar amount of cushioning, but is designed for slightly less elite runners. So if anything, it's going to be even more cushioned, you know, to give people whose sort of musculoskeletal system is less conditioned to running those distances. The other thing that you'll notice with these shoes is the sort of midsole stiffness, and the way to show that is to gently like twist the shoe. So you can see like I'm putting in quite a lot of effort there, and that's not twisting particularly easily. This means it's got quite a stiff midsole, and what that's really good for is kind of your technical descending, like anything where you're going to be not planting the foot completely flat on the floor. That's going to prevent like ankle roll and stuff in highly technical terrain. Similarly, this is an elite shoe. This is the lightest weight shoe that I've showing you today. And again, like that is a very stiff shoe. That is specifically designed for elite runners running shorter distances, hence why it's got less cushioning on it. But it's also very stiff to give the runner like maximum control. As a bit of a midpoint, this is an ultra distance shoe again, but it's not quite aimed at like the very elite of runners. So that is a little bit more flexible, bearing in mind this is a brand new shoe as well. Like I haven't actually worn these out at all. You know, you're still getting some rotation there, so that's relatively stiff. Like you certainly don't want it to be like completely floppy. That's going to offer you like a decent amount of controlled descending, but it's not quite designed for a very technical, very professional descent. You know, if you're less of an elite runner, you're probably going to be taking it slightly easier on the descent, so you're not going to be putting as much pressure through the midsole of the shoe. Similarly, with these, not designed necessarily for like elite runners, certainly not in race conditions, and therefore like it is slightly more flexible around the midsole. What that means is that because it's slightly more flexible around the midsole of that shoe, it's going to be basically a little bit more comfortable to run in. So your foot's going to feel basically more comfortable, more relaxed in the shoe. From my point of view, in terms of like choosing what you want, my suggestion would be that if you're relatively new to trail running, you probably want a slightly less stiff midsole, because your foot's going to feel more relaxed in it. You're going to generate like less tension in your foot throughout the course of a run, particularly a long one. Having said that, if you know that you're going to be running in particularly sort of technical terrain, particularly with steep descents, where you really want that rigidity across the bottom of the shoe to sort of protect your ankles in particular, then maybe look for like slightly stiffer shoe, just prevent that like twisting. So in terms of the upper and the fit of the shoes, as I've said before, like one of the reasons why I don't like suggesting a shoe to a person is the fit of the shoe is going to be very individual, both to the shoe itself and to the person wearing it. Like your feet come in all different shapes and sizes. With a lot of people, they actually tend to have one foot which is like slightly longer than another. Like even your own 2 feet are not necessarily always going to be exactly the same shape. As a result, the main bit of guidance that I will always give to people when they're first looking at buying a pair of running shoes is try them on. Ultimately, this is about, does the shoe fit you? Not about, do you fit the shoe? So if you try on a pair of shoes and they don't feel comfortable, and you can tell even like in the shop that they're rubbing, or that there's going to be some movement in there that's not as comfortable as it needs to be, that's not the right shoe for you. It's as simple as that. Couple of sort of guidelines with trail running shoes in particular, and especially for those of you who might be looking at running a little bit further. Potentially try on a pair of shoes that are like half a size bigger than you normally would. And I mean, even compared to like a road shoe designed for a shorter distance, one of the key things with trail shoes is you've got this feature sort of in the toe, which is called the toe box or the rock box in a trail shoe. With a lot of these shoes, you can see here, like particularly good example, you've got this rubber band across the top of the shoe. That is specifically designed so that like basically if you kick a rock, you're not going to like just shatter all of your toes. That is a feature in trail shoes in particular, where you're going to want that little bit of extra room. Probably normally it's about a thumbnail's width on the top of the shoe before your toes actually sort of get anywhere. So you've just got that little bit of extra space, partly to protect your toes, partly when you're running longer distances, that is going to enable your feet to expand as they get a little bit hotter throughout the course of a race. So they are really, really key considerations when looking at the fit of a shoe in general terms. With these shoes, we've got sort of 3 primarily like different lace systems, and they're going to have a big impact on how the shoe sort of fits you in general terms. Traditional laces here, as you can see, tie them up, off you go. Very, very straightforward, nice and easy. You can see with this shoe as well, it's got a raised sort of heel box. That will potentially like stop a bit of rubbing, might stop a bit of dirt getting into the back of the shoe. What it will mean is that you're going to need to wear slightly longer socks. If you wear like really, really low trainer socks, you might want to minimize some rubbing from a high like back of the heel box. Next lace system we've got is a quick lace system. Personally, this is my preference. I don't know like why anyone would wear normal laces when they could use a quick lace system. I love these. They're really simple to use. You literally slide that down, that locks in, off you go. Like that is not going anywhere at all. Similarly, to undo it, you do that, splay the shoe out, off you go. Like really, really simple system. I've been using quick lace shoes for years and years, and I find them to be like totally bomb proof. Little pro tip, most quick lace shoes come with a little sort of holster for it. So once you've laced them up, that tucks into there. Means that it's not flapping about when you're running. Finally, you've got at kind of like the elite end, this has got a quick lace system, but it's actually got 2 quick laces. What that means is that when you're tightening them up, you can actually adjust exactly where the tension goes across the top of your foot. So it's a very, very like customized feel. You can adjust the tension on either side of the toe, and that's a really, really nice way of making sure that your foot is completely secure inside of the upper of the shoe. Similarly, it's got little lace quiver, so you can tuck that in there. The other feature with these shoes is they've also got like the built-in sort of sock. So these don't have like a separate tongue like these do. These have got a sock that goes all the way around the top of the shoe, and that's going to ensure like a really nice fit particularly if you're running on like sand, any really loose or dusty surfaces, that you're not going to be getting like crap coming into your shoes and getting under your toes and causing extra blistering, particularly over long races and stuff. So from my point of view, like this kind of system is basically like 10 out of 10. It's a really, really optimal system. Again, partly fit is gonna boil into it, but the reality is like lots of manufacturers are now moving towards this kind of design. Nice little extra feature on these, you can just see here right at the back of the shoe that heel plate there has just got a little bit of tape over it. All that's going to mean is that the seam where the shoes join together, like because that's been taped over, it's not going to rub, so you're not going to get any like blistering, abrasion, friction on the actual back of that heel, which if it does happen can be quite painful. So that's a really nice sort of little bonus feature. But these are all things to look at when you're assessing like the fit and the sort of upper fit of your shoes. So the next aspect that we're going to look at is like the heel to toe drop and the ride feel of the shoe. Ride feel is something that, as we were saying earlier, around like stack height, ride feel is going to be affected by the amount of cushioning that you've got in the shoe. So like these two shoes, both designed for elite runners, both designed to be used over like significant distance, but because the stack height on the shoes is distinctly different, this shoe feels much more connected to the ground than this one does. So when you're running in this, you get a little bit more kind of like instability, basically, because you are not as low down to the ground as this one. Additional to that, and a really, really important feature that is worth noting when you're looking into particularly trail shoes, is the heel to toe drop. Where this plays a massive factor is that a lot of road shoes in particular are calibrated for a 10mm for men and sometimes up to a 12mm for women heel to toe drop. What that affects is the angle at which your foot hits the ground, and it's the angle from the bottom of your heel to the bottom of your toe hitting the ground. Dependent on whether that has got what is basically like a platform underneath it or not, that's going to lengthen your Achilles tendon moment as it hits the floor. 10mm doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're putting in like thousands, tens of thousands of steps, that can make a really, really significant difference to the amount of strain that you're putting some of your muscles and tendons in particular under. And if you're not conditioned to roughly a similar sort of heel to toe drop, you're really, really going to notice that. And that's something which can actually cause like chronic injury over a long term if you're not conditioned to it. To give you examples, this is an 8mm heel to toe drop. You can't see it looking at the shoe because it's got a big cushioning stack underneath it. These two shoes, the cushioning stack is roughly the same height, but the difficulty is this has got a 6mm heel to toe, this has got an 8mm. As a consumer walking into a running shop, you're not going to notice that, so you're going to have to ask for the information on it. My advice on heel to toe is, if you are transitioning straight from like road running to trail running, probably go with a higher heel to toe drop. So normally you're going to find like anything less than 8mm, you're really going to notice the difference. Similarly, this is going to impact your running style as well. If you know that you're a pronounced heel striker, then you're going to want to start off with a higher heel to toe drop. So like 10mm, 8mm. If you already know that you are quite a distinct like midfoot runner, and what that means is rather than impacting on the floor like that and rolling, you're impacting on that and toeing off, then you're going to be able to get away with less of a heel to toe drop. Even at the like very, very elite end of footwear, most are going to have some sort of heel to toe drop. And that is primarily because, particularly when you're running over very long distances, as you get tired, it's going to become less pronounced and you're going to want a little bit more support, particularly for your heel and your rear chain, so your calves, your Achilles, etc., as you fatigue basically over the course of a race. So that is, I would say, like the key feature to look out for in terms of your biomechanics, because that's something that if it's not dealt with quite appropriately can lead to injury. So just to sort of pithily summarize that, my suggestion is, if you're quite new to trail running, go for like a 10mm or an 8mm heel to toe drop. If you're quite experienced, or you know that you are a firm like midfoot striker, then you can go a little bit lower, maybe start looking at a 6mm or a 4mm. Personally, I wouldn't go lower than that. I don't really see any point. The last thing we're going to look at is like durability and sort of match for terrain. Spoke about it when I was talking about like lug depth in particular and the types of rubber on the bottoms of shoes. With durability, what you'll notice, particularly if I pick up, if I pick up these two, this is a very elite shoe. It's quite lightweight. In fact, it is the lightest weight shoe that I'm showing you today. And what you can see is all of this around the toe box in particular, that's all quite soft fabric. It's not really designed to be particularly protective, either of your foot or of the shoe itself. A shoe like this is going to wear out quite quickly. It's going to get holes in the upper, just because it is not designed to be as hard wearing. It's really designed to be as lightweight as possible. On the flip side of that, like, this is made with much like tougher rubber all around the toe box and all of that. And this shoe, realistically, like the sort of lugs themselves, the cushioning system, they're likely to break down before the actual sort of top of the shoe itself does. So a shoe like this should be pretty bomb-proof and should last you for a long time. And it's something that, you know, if you're really, really training for performance, yes, you're going to want to train in something which is the same as what you're going to race in. At the same time, most brands make an alternative to that. So actually, if I pick up this one, these two shoes are basically exactly the same. This is slightly lighter, slightly geared for more performance, slightly less durable than this one. From my point of view, I race in these, I train in these, because they are basically exactly the same. And all it means is that I'm not spending money that I don't need to, replacing like a top end shoe all the time, because I can train in something which is a little bit more cost efficient. So it's something which, particularly if you do have like quite specific performance goals in mind, worth considering picking up maybe like a slightly cheaper pair of shoes that you can train in, and then like basically saving like your Sunday best for when you're going out and racing and stuff. So hopefully like a useful sort of canter through like the varied world of trail running shoes. As I mentioned, like from my point of view, the number one most important thing when you're buying shoes is they should be comfortable. If someone is trying to get you to buy a pair of shoes that are expensive because they say they're really good, like, doesn't matter. There's no such thing as a good or bad pair of running shoes. Ultimately, if they fit you and they're really comfortable and you are not getting any like blistering or anything like that, then they're a good pair of shoes for you. Like, in 2025, with the technology they're putting into running shoes now, there is absolutely no reason that you should be getting blistering or any of these things. Yes, your feet are going to need like a little bit of conditioning if you're brand new to it, but the reality is the shoes should fit you anyway. What I've laid out is sort of a pretty brief like buyer's guide, basically. Heel to toe drop is another really, really critical factor that's well worth like discussing with whoever it is that you're buying your shoes from. And then from my point of view, it's all about like what terrain you're going to be running on, what kind of events is it that you want to be like doing training for, etc. And then are you looking for like maximum performance, or are you looking for a bit more sort of economy, a bit more cost efficiency, and a little bit more durability in your shoe? But ultimately, yeah, they're running shoes. It's not rocket science. But yeah, do like leave me a comment if you disagree with anything that I've said, and if you want any more specific advice in terms of like shoe buying, any other gear guides, we're going to be putting out like video or two every month on this kind of thing. So like, subscribe. I don't fucking know, it helps some sort of algorithm somewhere. So yeah, do all of that, and we'll see you in the next one.